Welcome to this explainer. Right now, I want you to take a quick second and think about your savings. Think about that money sitting safely tucked away in your accounts. There are no masked robbers kicking down your door, there are no sophisticated hackers draining your bank accounts in the dead of night, and thankfully, no sudden financial emergencies popping up. But what if I told you there's a silent, continuous leak in your financial bucket? A leak that affects absolutely everyone, everywhere, regardless of how hard you work.
Just imagine a thief that doesn't target your physical wallet or even touch the digital numbers in your bank account. In fact, if you pull out your phone and log into your banking app right now, the numbers you see are exactly the same as they were yesterday, down to the absolute decimal. Your brain tells you that you're entirely safe. But this thief, it operates on a completely different level. It slowly and silently drains the actual, real-world value of what those numbers can do. You don't see it happen. You don't feel the pinch instantly. But day by day, month by month, you're literally becoming poorer while doing absolutely nothing wrong.
Yep, this invisible force has a name. We call it inflation, the silent thief. And to survive it, you need to understand exactly how it operates beneath the surface of our economy. Because in the modern financial world, ignorance definitely isn't bliss. Ignorance actively costs you money. Once you see the undeniable truth of how this mechanism works, you simply can't unsee it. And trust me, you won't want to ignore it. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. The invisible wealth thief, 2. The purchasing power trap, 3. The roots of rising prices, 4. Who pays the highest price, and finally, number 5, exactly how to protect yourself. Let's get right into it. Kicking things off with Section 1, the invisible wealth thief. So at its absolute core, inflation is just the rate at which the general prices of goods and services increase over time. What this really means for you and me is that the exact same amount of money buys you less stuff. Let's make this tangible, right? Think about your favorite fast food burger, or maybe your go-to cup of coffee from 10 years ago. Remember what you paid for it back then? Now think about what it costs today. It's crazy. In simple terms, if inflation is running at 10%, a good that costs 100 today is going to cost 110 next year. The actual currency notes in your hand didn't change color, they didn't shrink in size, but their capability, their muscle in the real world, drastically withered away.
And hey, we aren't just talking about some abstract marginal number that only economists care about. According to International Monetary Fund data, many developing countries experience persistent annual inflation rates right in this deeply alarming range of 8 to 20%. Just let that sink in for a second. When your economic environment sits in this range, your money is constantly losing power at a terrifying speed. What does that actually look like for a normal family? Well, it looks like putting items back on the grocery store shelf. It looks like canceling a planned family vacation because the travel costs quietly doubled over 2 years. You're effectively running on a financial treadmill that's rapidly speeding up, while your legs are getting heavier and slowing down.
Moving right along to Section 2, the purchasing power trap. This is where the illusion of safety really gets you. It's wild because inflation doesn't reduce the literal number in your bank account, it destroys your purchasing power. In year 1, a set amount of cash gets you a completely full grocery basket. Fast forward to year 5, and that exact same amount gets you only half a basket. By year 10, you're walking out with barely anything at all. You experience this psychological shock of going to the store, handing over your usual budget, and suddenly realizing it no longer covers your bare necessities. For instance, an average 10% inflation rate will erase nearly half the value of your cash savings in just 7 years. No robbery took place, just the passage of time. Now, you might be thinking, hey, as long as I keep working hard and get my annual raise, I'll be fine, right? Well, here's a harsh reality check. Wage growth is notoriously slow, while price growth is incredibly fast. Economists actually called us the concept of sticky wages versus elastic prices. Companies will raise the prices of their products instantly to protect their profit margins when costs go up. But they hesitate, they delay, and they drag their feet when it comes to raising your salary. A report by the World Bank highlights that real wage growth routinely lags far behind inflation, meaning even with a hard-earned salary bump, your real income, what you can actually afford to buy, is going down. You are working much harder, but getting poorer. We've all been taught culturally from a very young age that saving cash is the safest, most responsible thing you can possibly do. But let's look at the brutal math of this savings trap. If your savings account at your local bank gives you a 5% return, but inflation in your country is running at 12%, you aren't gaining 5%. You are actively losing 7% of your wealth every single year. Keeping money parked in traditional banking institutions during high inflation periods often results in a massive negative real return. Your safe money is quietly, mathematically shrinking.
And then you have to factor in lifestyle inflation. As you finally earn a little more, society heavily pressures you to upgrade your life to match your peers. You buy a better phone, move to a nicer apartment, maybe lease a newer car. This creates a vicious two-front war. You're battling macroeconomic inflation on the outside and personal lifestyle inflation on the inside. You're earning more, sure, and you're spending more, but you are not feeling one bit richer. Your underlying financial stress remains exactly the same because you've essentially allowed the inflation to embed itself right inside your daily habits. All right, Section 3, the roots of rising prices. Like, where is all this constant pressure actually coming from? The legendary economist Milton Friedman hit the nail on the head when he famously said, "Inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon. It doesn't just happen randomly out of nowhere like bad weather." So why does it happen? Well, often governments face massive deficits or sudden national emergencies. Instead of raising unpopular taxes or drastically cutting spending, they take the easy way out. They just print more currency to pay their bills. When governments print massive amounts of new money without an equal increase in economic production, meaning no new goods or services were actually created, that new money supply just floods the economy. Suddenly, you have way more units of currency frantically chasing the exact same amount of goods, and that makes every single dollar, euro, or rupee noticeably less valuable. But here is why it is so incredibly insidious. It's the ultimate psychological trap. It's exactly like the old myth of the boiling frog. If you throw a frog into boiling water, it jumps right out. But if you put it in tepid water and slowly turn up the heat, it boils to death. Because prices don't double overnight, you simply adjust. You normalize the pain. If your commute or your groceries go up by just a little bit every month, your brain adapts. You don't panic. You just subtly adjust your budget, you compromise your quality of life, and you accept it. This normalization is exactly why you slowly adapt your own loss of wealth without ever rioting in the streets. Which brings us to Section 4. Who pays the highest price? Spoiler alert. The impact is incredibly unequal. Inflation is a fiercely unequal force. When we break it down, the poor suffer the most directly because the vast majority of their income goes to absolute essentials, like food, fuel, and shelter. There is zero buffer. The middle class? They struggle silently, feeling the heavy, suffocating squeeze as those sticky wages we talked about continuously lag behind their rising living costs. But the wealthy? Surprisingly, they often benefit. This is largely due to something called the Cantillon effect, which observes that new money creation benefits those closest to the assets and punishes those reliant on fixed wages. The wealthy don't hold their wealth in idle cash. They own assets, like factories, real estate, and equities that actually grow in value alongside or even faster than inflation. The financial system inherently punishes those holding cash and dramatically rewards those holding appreciating assets. So let's get to the most important part of this explainer. Section 5. How to protect yourself. Time to shift the power back to you. To stop shrinking and start growing, you have to look at historical data and entirely change your mindset. Institutions like S&P Global show that long-term global stock market returns average right around this 8 to 10% annual mark. Think about that for a second. You literally cannot outsave a 12% inflation rate. It is mathematically impossible. You have to out-invest it. You need financial vehicles that yield returns mathematically higher than the rate at which your currency is actively losing its value. The real protection isn't trying to squeeze a few more pennies of cash savings out of your paycheck. It is strategically converting that cash into active producing assets. We're talking stocks, real estate, and businesses. These are historically proven to act as a shield over the long term. Why? Because when the cost of living goes up, the revenue of these assets goes up too. A landlord simply raises the rent to match inflation. A business owner raises the price of their product to match inflation. They just pass the cost along, ensuring their intrinsic value stays perfectly protected while your cash burns. All right, here is your practical blueprint to fight back. Step 1, stop hoarding large amounts of idle cash beyond your standard emergency fund. Step 2, aggressively convert that cash into the appreciating assets we just discussed. Step 3, expand your income streams so you aren't completely vulnerable, relying on a single, slow-growing corporate wage. Step 4, and honestly, this is your ultimate weapon, relentlessly improve your financial literacy so you actually understand the rules of the game being played all around you. And step 5, always, always measure your wealth in real inflation-adjusted terms, not just the raw numbers on a screen. Surviving this economic environment isn't simply about working yourself to the bone to earn more. It's about managing what you already have infinitely smarter. Which brings us to our final thought for you to ponder today. If you don't outgrow inflation, will it outgrow you? Remember, inflation is not just rising prices on a store shelf, it is the falling value of your hard-earned life energy. The clock is ticking, and the purchasing power of your money is fading. The choice is entirely yours. Manage smarter, take control of your financial education, or let the silent thief win. So ask yourself, is your portfolio truly growing today, or is it silently shrinking?